4. Skeptical doubts concerning the operations of the understanding. Part 1. All the objects of human reason or inquiry may naturally be divided into two kinds, to wit, relations of ideas and matters of fact. Of the first kind are the sciences of geometry, algebra, and arithmetic, and in short, every affirmation which is either intuitively or demonstrably certain. The square of the hypotenuse is equal to the square of the two sides is a proposition which expresses a relation between these figures. That 3 times 5 is equal to the half of 30 expresses a relation between these numbers. Propositions of this kind are discoverable by the mere operation of thought without dependence on what is anywhere existent in the universe. Though there never were a circle or triangle in nature, the truths demonstrated by Euclid would forever retain their certainty and evidence. Matters of fact, which are the second objects of human reason, are not ascertained in the same manner, nor is there evidence of their truth, however great, of a like nature with the foregoing. The contrary of every matter of fact is still possible, because it can never imply contradiction. And is conceived by the mind with the same facility and distinctness as if ever so conformable to reality. That the sun will not rise tomorrow is no less intelligible a proposition and implies no more contradiction than the affirmation that it will rise. We should in vain, therefore, attempt to demonstrate its falsehood. Were it demonstrably false, it would imply a contradiction and could never be distinctly conceived by the mind. It may therefore be subject worthy of curiosity to inquire what is the nature of that evidence which assures us of any real existence and matter of fact beyond the present testimony of our senses or the records of our memory. This part of philosophy, it is observable, has been little cultivated either by the ancients or moderns, and therefore our doubts and errors in the prosecution of so important an inquiry may be the more excusable while we march through such difficult paths without any guidance or direction. It may even prove useful by exciting curiosity and destroying the implicit faith and security which is the bane of all reasoning and free inquiry. The discovery of defects in the common philosophy, if any such there be, will not, I presume, be a discouragement, but rather an incitement, as is usual, to attempt something more full and satisfactory that has yet been proposed to the public. All reasonings concerning matter of fact seem to be founded on the relation of cause and effect. This is the heart. By means of that relation alone, we can go beyond the evidence of our memory and senses. If you were to ask a man why he believes any matter of fact, which is absent, for instance, that his friend is in the country or in France, he would give you a reason. This reason would be some other fact, as a letter received from him or the knowledge of his former resolutions and premises. A man finding a watch or any other machine in a desert island would conclude that there had once been men in that island. All our reasons concerning fact are of the same nature. And here it is constantly supposed that there is a connection between the present fact and that which is inferred from it. Were there nothing to bind them together, the inference would be entirely precarious. The hearing of an articulate voice and rational discourse in the dark assures us of the presence of some person. Why? Because these are the effects of the human make and fabric and closely connected with it. If we anatomize all the other reasonings of this nature, we shall find that they are founded on the relation of cause and effect, and that this relation is either near or remote, direct or collateral. Heat and light are collateral effects of fire, and the one effect may justly be inferred from the other. If we would satisfy ourselves, therefore, concerning the nature of that evidence, which assures us of matters of fact, we must inquire how we arrive at the knowledge of cause and effect. I shall venture to affirm, as a general proposition which admits of no exception, that the knowledge of this relation is not, in any instance, attaining to by reasons a priori, but arises entirely from experience, which we find that any particular objects are constantly conjoined with each other. Let an object be presented to a man of ever so strong natural reason and abilities. If that object be entirely new to him, he will not be able, by the most accurate examination of its sensible qualities, to discover any of its causes or effects. Adam, though his rational faculties be supposed, at the very first entirely perfect, could not have informed from the fluidity and transparency of water that it would suffocate him, or from the light and warmth of fire that it would consume him. No object ever discovers by the qualities which appear to the senses either the causes which produced it or the effects which will arise from it, nor can our reason, unassisted by experience, ever draw an inference concerning real existence and matter of fact. This proposition, that causes and effects are discoverable not by reason, but by experience, will readily be admitted with regard to such objects as remember to have once been altogether unknown to us, since we must be conscious of the utter inability which we then lay under of foretelling that would arise from them. Present two smooth pieces of marble to a man who has no tincture of natural philosophy, he will never discover they will adhere together in such a manner as to require great force to separate them in a direct line, while they make so small a resistance to the lateral pressure. Such events as bear little analogy to the common course of nature, also readily confessed to be known only by experience, nor does any man imagine that the explosion of gunpowder or the attraction of a lodestone could ever be discovered by arguments a priori. In like manner, when an effect is supposed to depend upon an intricate machinery or secret structure of parts, we make no difficulty in attributing all our knowledge of it to experience. Who will assert that he can give the ultimate reason why milk or bread is proper nourishment for a man, not for a lion or a tiger? But the same truth may not appear at the first sight to have the same evidence with regard to events which have become familiar to us from our first appearance in the world, which bear a close analogy to the whole course of nature and which are supposed to depend on the simple qualities of objects without any secret structure of parts. We are apt to imagine that we could discover these effects by the mere operation of our reason without experience. We fancy that we fancy that were we brought on a sudden into this world, we could at first have inferred that one billiard ball would communicate motion to the other upon impulse, and that we needed not to have waited for the event in order to pronounce with certainty concerning it. Such is the influence of custom, that where it is strongest, it not only covers our natural ignorance, but even conceals it, and seems not to take place merely because it is found in the highest degree. Oh, ooh. But to convince us that all the laws of nature and all the operations of bodies without exception are known only by experience, the following reflections may perhaps suffice. Were any object presented to us, and were we required to pronounce concerning the effect which will result from it, without consulting past observation after what manner, I beseech you, must the mind proceed in this operation? It must invent or imagine some event which it ascribes to the object as its effect, and it is plain that this invention must be entirely arbitrary. The mind can never possibly find the effect in the supposed cause by the most accurate scrutiny and examination. The effect is totally different from the cause and consequently can never be discovered in it. Motion in the second billiard ball is a quite distinct event from the motion in the first, nor is there anything in the one to suggest the smallest hint of the other. A stone or piece of metal raised into the air and left without any support immediately falls. But to consider the matter a priori, is there anything we discover in this situation which can beget the idea of a downward rather than an upward, or any other motion in the stone or metal. As the first imagination or invention of a particular effect in all natural operations is arbitrary, where we consult and not experience, so must we also esteem the supposed tie or connection between the cause and effect which binds them together and renders it impossible that any other effect could result from the operation of that cause. When I see, for instance, a billiard ball moving in a straight line towards another, even suppose motion in the second ball should by accident be suggested to me as a result of their contact or impulse, may I not conceive that 100 different events might as well follow from that cause? May not both these balls remain at absolute rest? May not the first ball return in a straight line or leap off from the second in any line or direction? All these suppositions are consistent and achievable. Why then should we give the preference to the one which is no more consistent or conceivable than the rest? All our reasonings a priori will never be able to show us any foundation for this preference. In a word, then, every effect is a distinct event from its cause. It could not, therefore, be discovered in the cause, and the first invention or conception of it a priori must be arbitrary. And even after it is suggested, the, the conjunction of it with the cause must appear equally arbitrary, since there are always many other effects, which, to reason, may seem fully as consistent and natural. In vain, therefore, should we pretend to determine any single event or infer any cause or effect without the assistance of observation and experience. Hence, we may discover the reason why no philosopher who is rational and modest has ever pretended to assign the ultimate cause of any natural operation to show distinctly the action of that power which produces any single effect in the universe. It is confessed that the uttermost effort of human reason is to produce the principles productive of natural phenomena to a greater simplicity and to resolve the many particular effects into a few general causes by means of reasonings from analogy, experience, and observation. But as to the causes of these general causes, we should in vain attempt their discovery, nor shall we ever be able to satisfy ourselves by any particular explication of them. These ultimate springs and principles are totally shut up from human curiosity and inquiry. Plasticity, gravity, cohesion of parts, communication of motion by impulse, these are probably the ultimate causes and principles which we shall ever discover in nature. And we may esteem ourselves sufficiently happy if, by accurate inquiry and reasoning, we can trace up the particular phenomena to or near to these general principles. The most perfect philosophy of the natural kind only staves off our ignorance a little longer. As perhaps the most perfect philosophy of the moral and or metaphysical kind serves only to discover larger portions of it. Thus, the observation of human blindness and weakness is the effect of all philosophy and meets us at every turn in spite of our endeavors to elude or avoid it. Nor is geometry, when taken into the assistance of natural philosophy, ever, ever able to remedy this defect or lead us into the knowledge of ultimate causes by all that accuracy of understanding for which it is so justly celebrated. Every part of mixed mathematics proceeds upon assumptions, proceeds upon the supposition that certain laws are established by nature and our operations, and abstract reasonings are employed either to assist experience in the discovery of these laws or to determine their influence in particular instances where it depends upon any precise degree of distance and quantity. Thus, it is a law of motion discovered by experience at the moment of force of any body in motion is in the compound ratio proportion of its solid contents and its velocity, and consequently, that a small force may remove the greatest obstacle, raise the greatest weight, if by any contrivance or machinery we can increase the velocity of that force so as to make it an overmatch for its antagonist. Geometry assists us in the application of this law by giving us the just dimensions of all the parts and figures which can enter into any species of machine, but still the discovery of the law itself is owing merely to experience. And all the abstract reasonings in the world could never lead us one step towards the knowledge of it. When we reason a priori and consider merely any object or cause as it appears to the mind, independent of all observation, it never could suggest to us the notion of any distinct object, such as its effect, much less show us the inseparable and inviolable connection between them. A man must be very sagacious who could discover by reasoning that crystal is the effect of heat and ice of cold, without being previously acquainted with the operation of these qualities. Part 2. But we have not yet attained any tolerable satisfaction with regard to the question first proposed. Each solution still gives rise to a new question, as difficult as the foregoing, leads us on to further inquiries. When it is asked, what is the nature of all our reasonings concerning matter of fact? The proper answer seems to be that they are founded on the relation of cause and effect. When again it is asked, what is the foundation of all our reasonings and conclusions concerning that relation, it may be replied in one word: experience. But if we still carry on our sifting humor and ask, what is the foundation of all conclusions from experience, this implies a new question which may be of more difficult solution and explication. Philosophers that give themselves airs of superior wisdom and sufficiency have a hard task when they encounter persons of inquisitive dispositions who push them from every corner to which they retreat, and who are sure at last to bring them to some dangerous dilemma. The best expedient to prevent this confusion is to be modest in our pretensions. The best expedient to prevent this confusion is to be modest in our pretensions, and even to discover the difficulty ourselves before it is objected to us. By this means, we may make a kind of merit of of our very ignorance. I shall content myself in this section with an easy task and shall pretend only to give a negative answer to the question here proposed. I say then that even after we have experience of the operations of cause and effect, our conclusions from that experience are not founded on reasoning or any process of the understanding. This answer we must endeavor both to explain and to defend. It must be entirely allowed that nature has kept us at a great distance from all her secrets and has afforded us only the knowledge of a few superficial qualities of objects, while she conceals from us those powers and principles on which the influence of these objects entirely depends. Our senses inform us of the color, weight, and consistence of bread, but neither sense nor reason can ever inform us of those qualities which fit it for the nourishment and support of the human body. Sight or feeling conveys an idea of an actual motion of bodies, but as to that wonderful force or power which would carry on a moving body forever in the contained change of place, and which bodies never lose, but by communicating it to others, of this we cannot form the most distant conception. But notwithstanding this ignorance of natural powers and principles, we always assume, when we see like sensible qualities, that they have like secret powers, and expect that effects similar to those which we have experienced will follow from them. If a body of like color and consistence with that bread, which we have formerly eat, be presented to us, we make no scruple of repeating the experiment and foresee with certainty like nourishment and support. Now this is a process of the mind or thought, of which I would willingly know the foundation. It is allowed on all hands there is no known connection between sensible qualities and secret powers, and consequently, that the mind is not led to form such a conclusion concerning their constant and regular conjunction by anything which it knows of their nature. As to past experience, it can be allowed to give direct and certain information of those precise objects only, and that precise period of time which fell under this cognizance. But why this experience should be extended to future times and to other objects, which for aught we know may be only in appearance similar, this is the main question on which I would insist. The bread which I formerly eat nourished me, that is, a body of such sensible qualities, such at the time, endued with such secret powers. But does it follow that other bread must always be attended with like secret powers? The consequence seems nowise necessary. At least it must be acknowledged that there is here a consequence drawn by the mind, that there is a certain step taken, a process of thought and an inference, which wants to be explained. Footnote 7. The word power is here used in a loose and popular sense. A more accurate explication of it would give additional evidence to this argument. See section 7. Okay. These two propositions are far from being the same. I have found that such an object has always been attended with such an effort, and I foresee that other objects which are, in appearance, similar will be attended with similar effects. I shall allow, if you please, that the one proposition may justly be inferred from the other. I know, in fact, that it always is inferred. If you insist that the inference is made by the chain of reasoning, I desire to produce that reasoning. The connection between these propositions is not intuitive. There is required a medium which may enable the mind to draw such an inference, if indeed it be drawn by reason and argument. What that medium is, I must confess, passes my comprehension, and it is incumbent on those to produce it who assert that it really exists and is the origin of all conclusions concerning matter of fact. This negative argument must certainly, in process of time, become altogether convincing. If many penetrating and able philosophers shall turn their inquiries this way, and no one be ever able to discover any connecting proposition or intermediate state which supports the understanding in this conclusion. But as the question is yet new, every reader may not trust so far to his own penetration as to conclude, because an argument escapes his inquiry, that therefore it does not really exist. For this reason, it may be requisite to venture upon a more difficult task and, enumerating all the branches of human reason, human knowledge, endeavor to show that none of them can afford such an argument.